And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unfiltered Report. My name is Ryan. I know that after Jimmy Kimmel does his stuff on ABC every night at the end of his episodes, he says, with apologies to Matt Damon. Obviously, the context of that important, but that's what he says. In a different context, uh, I would like to begin this episode with apologies to Armand. I will explain that. Probably won't be the last I explain it. We'll probably talk about it again. Uh, a little bit of context here. It's going to kind of go all over the place. But again, with apologies to Armand, him and I were all set to do one of these recordings together, and we were gonna chop it up during the draft about the off season and whatnot. Um, and we were all set to make that happen. And unfortunately, while driving over, I got the and getting in the car to drive over, I should say. I got the little notification in the car that said tire pressure low. So I took it to Costco. I figured, it was still drivable. It didn't feel like it was wobbly or flat or anything like that. So I figured, it's probably nothing too serious. Maybe just put air in it, or maybe it's a tiny little. Maybe obviously you never want to nail in your tire, but maybe it's something minor. They patch it up in 20, 30 minutes. Be on my way. We make this magical recording that we had planned come to fruition. Unfortunately, uh, you can't make these things up. I went to the little tire place that they have at Costco, since I know they're open pretty late, and that's where I got my tires. So I figured if anything was wrong with the tire, with the warranty and whatnot, they patched the tire or whatever, call it a day. So I waited in line and talked to this gentleman. Who was a nice dude. And I went and showed him the tire that had notified me was low on air. And he ended up checking all four, and he said, "You know what, man? Like, it's a good thing you brought this in, because all four of your tires are really, it's not just the one that the tire pressure is low." He pointed the one that wasn't even given a notification. So this one's, definitely don't drive this thing any, like, come back in the morning, and we'll, since we're not taking any walk-ins for the rest of the day, bring it in the morning. We'll hook you up with some new tires. Um, and again, no free ads, obviously, because I guess the warranty doesn't even extend for the if I guess for these anyway, so that doesn't matter. It's besides the point. All of which is to say, with apologies to Harmon, would you would have been getting ready to him here and I chop it up, and instead you have to suffer with me talking about, with apologies to Armon, with these tires. But in the apology to Armon, thankfully, he was gracious enough to understand and to move it back to tomorrow. So as tragically as I sit here and I'm bummed out for the remainder of the day until I see him tomorrow, and we make that happen. Shout out to him for being gracious and understanding and being able to be flexible in rescheduling, especially because I know he was going to take the time out of his busy schedule to make this happen today. So again, with apologies to Armand, you can look forward to him and I chopping it up tomorrow about the NBA offseason. Um, in the meantime, you'll have to suffer with me a little bit, just a little bit longer. Also, shout out to Fidel last night. It was a blast. Really enjoyed that speed run, and I know we'll further deep dive what we talked about when we have more time to do so. Him and I, and he at the end mentioned that there'll be some non-sports stuff to look forward to as well. Uh, Shout out to the boy Malik. He'll be on here virtually later. To I know he's got a lot he's gonna want to get into and share with the people. So I'm looking forward to making that happen. So lots to look forward to for the people. with many of the stars of the Unfiltered Report, many of whom will be in the next couple hours, the next 24 hours. Again, I can't say it enough. Apologies to Armand and apologies to Malik too. We're gonna do one yesterday too. And that was my bad on that as well, timing wise. But we'll get Malik in tonight. And apologies to my guy D. Apologies to everybody. I love you all dearly. Apologies to my parents. I torture them a lot. Apologies to my brothers, the family that we have here at the Unfiltered Report, for maybe I always try to be the best that I can be, and sometimes I know I'm not. And I appreciate you all always for putting up with me and my flaws. Um, I can't thank you enough for that as well. All of you guys, everybody out there, really, family, friends. Which again, I don't really have friends, I have brothers. So all of which is to say apologies to all of you. And I hope you all know that I love you dearly. And I look forward again, Malik tonight. Hopefully the homie D very soon. Armand will have that locked in for tomorrow, NBA wise. Uh, the list goes down the line. I look forward to making all of that happen. And um, so yeah, with apologies to the stars of the Unfiltered Report. Um, that was that. Hey, there you go. With apologies to the stars of the Unfiltered Report. I hope you know I love you dearly. One big happy family, and can't wait for what's in store. On the subject of which, funny enough, again, in the brain going on a million miles an hour. So Fidel and I, when we did our little late night speed run, part of the reasons why I was never really a great student back in the day, uh, and Fidel and many other people can attest to this. Um, I used to always do things the last minute. Um, whether it was a paper or a project or studying or whatever it is, I would always delay it to the last possible moment. Um, Even if I knew long in advance that day was coming, I just, no matter how, it just would, I don't know, it's a horrible flaw. Um, and for as much as I like to believe I've improved on that over the years, some things never change. What's the saying that we always say? As much as things change, they stay the same. Uh, so known for a long time that the NBA draft was coming, and I had said that I wanted to come on here and recap the draft combine and preview the draft and do a 30-team deep dive. Me being the idiot that I am, that didn't happen the way that I anticipated. I dragged it on the last night. I figured after our speed run, I would do it after I uploaded the speed run. As it happened, I fell asleep before I could even upload it or do the draft combine recap and draft preview. And I figured what made me feel a little bit better was that, okay, we were going to chop it up during the draft with Armand and, recap the picks as they happened and kind of do kind of what we did with D, Big Nate, and Justin during the NFL draft. Was going to do that with Armand. And we were going to talk about the trades that happened and preview the offseason and all that stuff. And then I fucked that up today with the tires. So you'll hear us do that tomorrow during round two and recap whatever happened, which again, I'll mention right now. It is 5:54 p.m. Uh, as of this recording. I don't know anything that's happened in the draft. I have it on DVR. I know both Armand and Malik can attest to this, both in timestamps of when I called them and what I said. They can attest to the fact that I don't know anything. I didn't know anything before this. Don't know anything now. I have it on DVR. Um, I'll watch it later, and then probably after the recording that we do with Malik, will come in, and sometime after that, probably watch it after that recording with Malik if I'm not able to beforehand. So somewhere in the hours of whenever to whenever, come in, recap round one, look ahead to round two. And I'll continue to say with apologies to all the stars of the Unfiltered Report. And again, we'll come on here with Armand tomorrow during round two. Um, but because of the way that it worked out, as you know, it didn't work out that we got to maybe preview the draft and recap the draft combine in the way that I would have preferred. Especially, it was something I didn't want to have to really speed run through. I really wanted to take my time with it and really, really make it like a 2, 3 hour ordeal because it could really maybe even 4 hours because that's how long it could be. But I'm gonna try to just speed run through it a little bit. Uh, as best I can without knowing anything that's happened, just to kind of set the stage for when we come in and recap it. Where I said, even whether it was the NFL draft, the MLB draft, or whatever it is, the way my brain works, as much as we want to preview it, I always like to recap it because I think as the picture gets clearer, you have prospects that you like, some more than others, and you have an idea maybe where some players might go, but there's always unexpected things and things that you never know until you see it play out. And then I always like to say there are certain picks that happen regardless of the sport that when they happen, you're like, oh man, that's a slam dunk pick. I can't believe that they let them have the league let that happen. Whatever. We did that with the NFL draft. We'll do it again with the NBA draft. But just to kind of give an idea of where the brain's at without knowing any of these different things, and then we'll continue to deep dive it. And then summer league we'll have day by day, just like we're gonna go day by day with the summer league stuff as well, and all the off season stuff as well. But just to talk a little bit about the draft combine, it was over a month ago when that happened. May 13th and May 14th were the scrimmages. That was the day before, and after as well with the testing and all that, the shooting drills and interviews and blah blah blah. And then obviously there have been some players who went back to school. Uh, and also probably a good thing. Shout out Armand. Tomorrow hopefully my voice will be fully back. Um, so if you hear me struggling here at any point, my apologies. That's also part of the reason why I'll do my best to speed run it so I can save the voice for Malik, for Armand, for draft recap, all these different things. Um, So in these draft combine scrimmages, obviously it's just a scrimmage. There's, these guys have years of bodies of work before they even play in these scrimmages. Just like with the testing for the players that don't scrimmage, we'll get to that in a second. It always kind of boggles my mind how all of a sudden, maybe someone will have a good scrimmage, or they won't play in the scrimmages, but they'll test well and they'll shoot well, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, the draft stock's going up, and it's like, well, how did you not realize that these are already good players? Besides all that, but anyways. Um, we talked about Cameron Carr, and many other players. Talked about Baba Miller, Dylan Mitchell, all these different guys that we already talked about. But we'll talk about the ones that stood out to me that I would like to even talk more about. I mean, there's a couple others I didn't even mention. Um, Ryan Conwell, Tega Owe, we go down the list here. Um, so in no particular order, there's some again Keyshawn Big Guard Hall, Dalen Swain, Aaron Kruma, even the guy, all these different players, even the ones that went back to school like Jeremy Fears, Tyler Tanner, Ruben Chinyelu, John Blackwell, and then you got guys, like Terrace Reed Jr. still, uh, Nick Boyd, Jaden Bradley, Peter Suter, Jacoby Gillespie, Trayvon Brazil. I mean, you go down the list, and these are just in the scrimmages. And I mean, and people talk about this draft like as it being a top three or a top five or a top 10 or a really strong lottery. I think one of the things that I've seen that's been very interesting to me is there's been a lot of chatter about how the second round is not as strong. And it's a great draft because of maybe the top 10 or the top 14 or the top three or the top five or whatever it is, but that because of NIL and somebody's names like a Ruben Chinyelu going back to school, for example, or uh, one of these different players that goes back to school for another year, they take the NIL money, they'll make more going back to school for a year, maybe get drafted higher next year. Still probably could have gotten drafted, maybe even again in a case like Ruben Chinyelu could have been a late first round pick. But with a guy like Axel Lundeborg, last year he could have entered the draft, been picked in the 20s without ever playing at Michigan, just from what he did at UAB. But going to Michigan, playing for Dusty May, who got hired by the Dallas Mavericks the other day. We'll talk about that further in depth. The Blazers hiring Micah Nori down the line, uh, Tiago Splitter going to the Bulls, all these different hires that have happened in the last 24 hours, couple of days. Um, we'll talk about all that, but so that's an example. Like a guy like Yaxel Lundeborg last year probably could have been picked in the 20s. He goes to Michigan, wins a national championship, and now he could go really anywhere. To be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes in the lottery. If he doesn't go in the lottery, he'll go higher than the 20s, I would imagine. I'll be shocked if he ends up in the 20s. A guy like Morris Johnson Jr., his teammate, is one of those guys from the workouts that all of a sudden, athletically, he tests really well. He shoots pretty well. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, Morris Johnson Jr. is going to be a lottery pick. It's like, did you not watch this guy already? Like, he's pretty damn good. A Daymar is a guy, again, not knowing anything that's going to happen in the draft. It would not shock me in the slightest if all three of those guys are lottery picks. It wouldn't surprise me if a Daimara ends up going in like the top. Maybe he ends up being what people might think is run on point guards. Maybe he gets taken somewhere. It could be even in the top 10, maybe, late lottery. If anything, he'll go up pretty high, I think. All three of those guys, I think it wouldn't surprise me if they go in the lottery, and they'll all go in the top probably 20 something picks at worst. And they're all great players in their own right. You just go down the list. I mean, it's such a talented draft. I mean, as much as you want to talk about the AJ DeBonces and the Darren Petersons and the Cam Boozers, Caleb Wilson, Keaton Wagler, Mikael Brown Jr., Darius Acuff Jr., Kingston Flemings, Braden Burries, Nate Heyman. I mean, holy smokes. And then you go down the list, and there's international guys, Kareem Lopez, uh, Luigi Swigo, Jack Kyle, Sergio Delaria, all these different players. Holy smokes, it's just drafting. And a guy like Hannah Steinbach out of Washington, too, Alan Graves out of Santa Clara, Chris Sinak Jr. out of Houston, teammates of Kingston Flemings, who, I mean, I can't wait to see where that guy goes. I mean, he could be one of the wild cards of the draft, in my opinion. Alan Graves as well. Again, Isaiah Evans out of Duke can really shoot the crap out of the basketball. Jade Quaintance out of Kentucky started at Arizona State. He's only 18, and he's a big wild card. He's one of those guys who, high ceiling, high floor, maybe. I mean, there's just so many goddamn players. It's incredible. It's the best draft in my lifetime, without a fraction of a doubt. Um, I cannot emphasize that enough. Like going back to these scrimmages, like Cam Carr, we came on here previewing the draft combine over a month ago and said Cam Carr, regardless of where he gets picked, that guy's a lottery pick. And it wouldn't surprise me if he gets taken in the lottery and he plays really well in a scrimmage that he probably didn't need to play in. And I respect the fact that he was going to play in that. And not, I mean, he played about as well as you could possibly play in a one scrimmage game that he played. Didn't even need to play a second time. How about a 30 piece, 50% from the field, 9 for 18, 6 for 12 from three, missed 3 free throws. Don't care about that. 6 and 9 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds and an assist. I mean, he came out in the first 10, 15 seconds of the game and hit a logo three damn near, hit like 3 or 4 of those in both halves. I mean, athletically was jumping out the gym, made some defensive plays that made you hit. I mean, oh my God. I mean, anybody that hadn't played him watched him play at Baylor, and you just wanted to have a quick little snippet and see what he can do, I would watch that if anything. I mean, it was a treat for the ages. I mean, he made a couple of tweaks to his shot, even in a combine that he didn't have at Baylor, and I mean, he was looking spectacular. I mean, he couldn't have played a better basketball game if you tried, regardless of who you're playing against. Didn't even need to play the second game. I mean, he solidified himself. I mean, holy smokes, what a performance. Um, being able to score the ball, shoot the way that he did, defense, and then, I mean, a guy like Dylan Mitchell the second day put on a dunk contest for the ages just with that alone. I mean, we talked about the athleticism. One of the things that I forgot to mention, with him was that at St. John's, something he was able to showcase at St. John's that maybe he hadn't been able to showcase as much was his ability with the basketball. This is a guy who had 7 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists on day one, and then day two decided to go out and have his own personal dunk contest. I think he went 6 for 6, and all 6 of those were dunks, and they were the types of dunks that would make you go, oh, wow. and you make that kind of noise like, I don't even have my full voice, so I can't make the noises that I made without straining my voice any further. Um, but I think a guy with Dylan Mitchell, like with the defense and the athleticism and the ability to rim run, his floor is already really high, and he'll be a steal in the second round. I can't wait to see where he goes. But I think any team that drafts him would be doing him and themselves a disservice if you don't put the ball in his hands and allow him to kind of be a point forward type. I think that's a really intriguing. The floor is already there with the defense and the rim running, but you add the on ball ability. I think he ends up being an even bigger steal than what he already will be if you allow him the ability to do that, the ability to pass the basketball, play make. Um, and the ability to jump out the gym. And I mean, he again, go back and watch what he can do athletically. Forget the draft combine. Watch what he's done in 4 years in all this Texas, Cincinnati, St. John's. Keep an eye on this dude for sure. I can't wait to see where he goes. He'll be a steal to draft. We'll come back and mention. I don't know where he'll go. I'm excited to see that. Uh, I mean, we could go down the list here. I mean, it's remarkable. A guy like Keyshawn Big Guard Hall didn't even play the best in either of those two scrimmages, but we talked about him as someone who's listed as a forward, but he'll tell you he's a guard. And I think another guy, you put the ball in his hands and he can really, he can do some exciting things for a guy who'll get drafted in the second round. That guy can play. Don't sleep on him. I mean, you could go down the list here. I mean, it's remarkable. Uh, I mean, it's an amazing draft. I mean, Otega Owe played really well last year. He was a guy who went back to school and he did nothing in his last year at Kentucky that'll make you think anything differently. And what he was able to do at Oklahoma too. This is a guy again who, at worst, again the floors, he's going to be a really good defender. He's going to be someone that's going to be able to contribute to winning. All these cliches that you hear, uh, but he's got an ability to score the basketball that I don't think is talked about enough and other places. And so I think he's going to be a really valuable player. A guy like Toby Lawal, we mentioned him, can jump out the gym. He'll definitely get drafted. Nick Boyd's a guy who, whether he gets drafted or not, Trayvon Brazil is going to be a lock to go in the second round. Baba Miller, can't believe we haven't talked. I mean, we talked about him a lot. It was him and Cam Carr on day one that were the stars of day one. Along with a couple of these other guys, that we've mentioned already. Baba Miller, to be honest with you, wouldn't shock me if he goes in the 20s in the first round. At the latest, I think he'll go in the 30s early in round two. He showcased the ability to shoot in those two scrimmages. That I think for whatever reason people were concerned. I was never worried about that. He's got athleticism. He can defend. He's a really intriguing prospect. I think he's in the modern mold of what every NBA team wants. There's a couple of guards, even in the Braden Smiths of the world, Jaden Bradley. These guys, we'll see when or where they get drafted, but they're high floor players. They're winning players. A guy like Ryan Conwell can shoot the crap out of the basketball. We mentioned him again. Some of the guys that are going back to school, even a guy like Matt Abel played really well. He decides to go play for Mike Malone in college. He played really well. We mentioned Dalen Swain. I think he's a first round pick. I'm confident in that. I think he'll go in the 20s at the latest. I'll be shocked if he doesn't. Peter Suter's a guy who didn't play well in either scrimmage, and I don't care. Rick Barnes is one of the best coaches in the country, and Rick Barnes said, "Hey, this Peter Suter guy was a handful of the best players we coached against all year." Whether Peter Suter gets drafted or not, I'm excited to see what he can do in summer league. He's a great player. I think he can sneak up on some people. Mentioning Rick Barnes, we'll talk a lot about Nate Ament and the upside that he has. A guy like Jacoby Gillespie, him and Cam Carr put on a clinic. Cam Carr had 30 on day one, and Jacoby Gillespie had 28. Let's not forget about him. He can fill it up pound for pound, as good as it gets. We mentioned a guy like Tyler Tanner, pound for pound. You can't talk about pound for pound without Jacoby Gillespie. He can really score the basketball with the best of them. And that's a skill that I think is going to be able to translate. He'll be able to come in and be a microwave scorer off the bench immediately, and I think he can contribute to a team in the second round that takes him. And pound for pound, look, you don't play for Rick Barnes if you don't play defense. So that's something with both Amen and with Jacoby Gillespie that I would highlight. Same thing with Kelvin Sampson, with Chris Sinek Jr. and Kingston Flemings. Like, you don't play for those guys if you don't play defense. Chris Sinek Jr., I mentioned him, I think is huge wild card. Alan Graves, I mentioned that earlier. Like, uh, some of these guys that I think are going to be players to monitor for sure. Um, LeBaron Philon Jr. I haven't even talked about him out of Alabama, him and Christian Anderson. People who talk about the freshman point guards, don't forget about these two guys and Bennett Sturts and the international point guards we mentioned. A guy like Sergio Delaria, a guy like Jack Kyle, Abuka Okori out of Stanford is somebody I can't believe is not getting talked about more as well. The buzz that I've seen on him in other publications is like an end of the first round kind of guy. I honestly think he's a steal of the draft if that happens. I mean, this is a guy who can fill it up. Koa Pete, same thing. I don't know why he's not talked about as much. Malik Thomas, Darius Acuff Jr. gets a lot of love. Malik Thomas can fill it up too. I can't wait to see what happens with him. I mean, you go down the list. I mean, Christian Anderson's a blur with the ball. LeBaron Philon Jr. is going to be a steal to draft. I think don't be shocked if he gets taken in the lottery, whether that's Milwaukee, whether somebody trades up for him. There's rumors maybe about Minnesota moving up for him. This is before they made the Randall trade, obviously, and re-signing Ayo Dosunmu. Christian Anderson's a guy I think I mean, you can't talk about pound for pound. Christian Anderson's an amazing basketball player. He's going to be a fucking steal. I can't wait to see where he goes. Um, One of the things I'll be interested in coming back and recapping after round one and after round two is there's a lot of teams in round one that have multiple picks. Obviously now Milwaukee with 10 and 13 with the Giannis trade, Charlotte with 14 and 18, Memphis with 3 and 16, the Bulls with 4 and 15, OKC with 12 and 17. There've been a lot of rumblings that all of these teams want to move up, whether it's OKC, Memphis, Charlotte. Atlanta's been very active. They have pick 23 as well as pick number 8. There's been a lot of chatter about these teams with multiple picks wanting to move up and down the board. I'm very interested to see how that plays out. And if they do move up, who do they get? If somebody moves down, who do they target? Um, these order of guards, by the way, I mean, Wagler, Brown Jr., Mikel Brown Jr., Darius Acuff Jr., Kingston Flemings, Braden Burries, LeBaron Philon Jr., Christian Anderson, Bennett Sturts. I mean, holy fucking smokes, man. I mean, all those guys are incredible. I don't care what the order is. It's really just a matter of preference. I can't wait to see where they end up. If I had to take a crack at it, again, not knowing anything, um, based on this is a mixture of what I think will happen, and we'll talk about what I would do maybe as we talk about it throughout today and then later tonight and tomorrow with Armand and after round two, and then throughout summer league and whatnot. But obviously, just they're all different players. They offer different things, different body types, different skill sets, different strengths. Um, you know, just really depends what an organization wants to do with these players. But I think they're all players that you could put the ball in their hands and you could have them run an NBA team. I think they can all be high level all star players, whether it's Wagler, Mikel Brown Jr., Acuff Jr., Flemings, Burries. I know it sounds like a cop out, but that's why I think this is such an incredible draft because I think all of these guys have immense potential. And again, that's not even mentioning AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and Caleb Wilson. Like, you know, there's been this notion that like AJ DeBonsa, like when the NBA draft combine coverage on ESPN, they were talking about it like it was a foregone conclusion that AJ DeBonsa was going to go one, which I never understood that because Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, heck, even all these other guys again, Keaton Walker. Like I think all these guys any other year, I'd make an argument to you they could be a number one pick, a number two pick, a number three pick. And it just so happens they're all in the same draft. And so someone's going to fall way lower than they should, whether it's Keaton Wagler or Kingston Flemings or Braden Burries or Nate Ament or Cam Carr. All these guys are going to get drafted later than they should. Chris Sinak Jr., Yaxel Lendeborg, Morris Johnson Jr., Damara. Like all these guys are incredible. And I don't think people really maybe realize how good of a draft this is. Well, like, if we're talking about a guy like Cam Boozer, Cam Boozer's a number one pick, in my opinion. I really believe that. I think Cam Boozer's a number one pick. Um, he's going to be an incredible high level player. Darren Peterson, the ceiling is off the charts. AJ DeBonsa, goes without saying what that guy can do. The ceiling's off the charts. Caleb Wilson might have the highest ceiling out of anybody. Ceiling is so relative. Like Caleb Wilson's, I mean, the motor that guy plays with, like if you never watched that dude play, like he puts in effort both ends. Defensively, he gets after you. He can rebound the fuck out of the basketball. He plays like he's got unlimited energy. Cam Boozer plays like on the other end of Caleb Wilson. Like Caleb Wilson's got this like helter skelter, like doesn't run out of energy. Feel like he's like a gazelle. He can run out there and play hard on both ends for 38 minutes a night and be a two-way force. Cam Boozer, he's never rushed. He might not, that if the biggest knock on you is that you're not the most athletic out of a guy who's going to be a top 3 pick, I mean, you're just nitpicking. This guy's going to be a high level basketball player, a winning basketball player, an all-star level player for many years. This guy's incredible. What he can do, he can pass. What he can do as a passer is remarkable. He can shoot, he can rebound, he can defend. He does all the little things that don't even show up in the stat sheet. And this is a guy who is the statistically best player, not only this year, but arguably in the last 2 decades in college basketball, just to put that in perspective. And this is a guy who, for some reason, is getting talked about he's just kind of there. It wouldn't surprise me if Darren Peterson goes 1 to the Wizards. It wouldn't surprise me if Cam Boozer goes 2 to the Jazz. It wouldn't surprise me if DeBonsa goes 1 and Peterson goes 2 and Boozer goes 3. It wouldn't surprise me if Caleb Wilson went, 3. With the Clippers at 5, if they stay there, if they trade down, they could take any of those guards. And I mean, it's just a matter of preference, whether it's Wagler, Burries, Brown Jr., Acuff Jr., Flemings. If I had to take a crack at it, I think they'll take either Wagler, Burries, or Mikael Brown Jr. Or if it's not one of those, they'll trade down to take one of those guys, or they'll take one of them. I think Brooklyn, will take one of these guys. I think they'll take either Mikael Brown Jr., Keaton Wagler, Kingston Flemings, maybe Darius Acuff Jr. I think Sacramento is going to end up with Darius Acuff Jr., Kingston Flemings. I just have a gut feeling it's going to be Darius Acuff Jr. Maybe I'm wrong. If it's not him, I think it's Kingston Flemings. I don't think that Sacramento is going to take Wagler or Brown Jr. I think either they'll be off the board or they won't take them. That's my opinion. You can interpret that how you want. I think Atlanta ain't sitting pretty. I think Atlanta can be as aggressive as they want to move up or stay there. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta end up with, whether it's a Wagler or a Flemings or a Mikael Brown Jr. And it's like, how the hell did the Hawks get one of those guys? They move off Trae Young, and then they get a guy who I think could be even better than Trae Young. One of those guys, whoever they get. We'll see how that plays out. Dallas, Dusty May. They hired Dusty May. There's been a lot of connection between Dallas and Braden Burries. But now, even maybe a guy like Nate Amen or Hans Steinbach. But, now with Dusty May, do they take one of the Michigan guys? I think it wouldn't surprise me if Brooklyn kind of shook the things up too. And if they don't take a guy like one of the guards, it wouldn't surprise me if Brooklyn took a Daymara or one of the other Michigan guys, Morris Johnson Jr. With Dallas, do they take one of the Michigan guys with Dusty May or do they not? You've got Milwaukee with these 2 lottery picks. Golden State, do they move off of that pick 11 or not? OKC, do they try and package 12 and 17 and move up? Do they trade down? Do they use one or both of those picks? Charlotte at 14 and 18, do they package those picks and try to move up? With Chicago, do you take a guy at 4 and then try to move up with 15 in future assets to get another guy in the top 10 maybe? There's so many things that I can't wait to see how it unfolds. So those are the kind of the things that I'm interested in. And then, again, you're going to have Toronto at 19, San Antonio at 20, Detroit at 21, Philly at 22, Atlanta again at 23, the Knicks champions at 24, Lakers at 25, Nuggets at 26, Celtics at 27, Brooklyn again coming in at 28. The Timberwolves moved down to 33 in that Julius Randle trade. Cleveland at 29. There have been some rumors that Cleveland want to move off at 29, trade down into the second round, maybe out of the draft. Dallas again at 30. Um, I can't wait. And then round two, I mean, so many of these guys. I mean, we go down the list, and we haven't even talked about a guy like Joshua Jefferson out of Iowa State, who I think is a winning basketball player that's going to be a steal. We mentioned guys like Baba Miller, Trayvon Brazil, Terrace Reed Jr. We haven't even talked about Zuby Ejiofor, who didn't play in the scrimmages. Zuby Ejiofor is a guy who was a mortal lock to get drafted in the 30s at the latest. Didn't play in any of the scrimmages, didn't need to. About as rock solid of a lock of a draft pick as you could get for a guy who didn't play in any of those scrimmages. Zuby Ejiofor tested amazingly, didn't even need to test well. If you watch the tape with what he was able to do, especially the last couple of years at St. John's, brilliant basketball player. Alex Caravan, we haven't mentioned him. You want to talk about winning players? Can't talk about winning players without talking about him. Richie Saunders is a guy. There's a lot of propaganda out there about Richie Saunders. He falls in a similar mold. He's coming off of a brutal injury he had, but he'll be, you're probably looking at Richie Saunders as a redshirt guy, and you draft him and let him rehab. We didn't even talk about yet, like again, Isaiah Nelson, Teron Pierre Jr. I mean, holy smokes. Nick Martinelli, Milos Uzan, Tyler Nickel. Wow. I mean, even Felix Akpara, Ugano Unyenso, guys who played well in these scrimmages, mind you, and tested well, and these are good basketball players. Um, it's just it's such a good draft. I can't emphasize that enough. And there's going to be some guys who don't get drafted that I want to see where they end up, and I think can make some noise as well. And we could be here for hours. I can't wait to come in and recap it and see who goes where. But again, apologies to the stars of the Unfiltered Report. I love you all dearly. To the family, both whether blood or not, family is family. To the family, my apologies. I love you all. Please stay safe. Take care of yourselves. I look forward to again chopping it up with all the stars of the Unfiltered Report that we mentioned. With apologies to the stars of the Unfiltered Report. I will make it all up to you, I promise. I love you all dearly. Cheers to the best to come. Stay tuned for more. We'll be back.